Hello everyone, welcome to Zephyr for Jira test management tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to learn all about test management within Jira. Now Zephyr is a test management plugin that is available for Jira Cloud, and we can install it easily for 30 days as a trial version and learn test management within Jira. Zephyr is very widely used in all the software testing projects and software development projects across the organization, and it is very popular. So it is very good add-on to your skills, and if you're already working in any of the software development project, you will learn how to use Zephyr within Jira effectively so that you know all the key concepts, what are the best practices to use when you are doing test management within Zephyr and Jira. What are the topics that I have covered in this particular course? The topics will start from installation of the Zephyr, how you can configure Zephyr within Jira, then how you can document the test cases. That's very important aspect. So if you are working in a software testing and development team, how you can document the test cases, then how you can import the test cases. Apart from the documentation, how you can create test cycles, add those test cases into the test cycles and then execute those test cases, right? So all of that software testing life cycle has been thought of and covered in this particular tutorial. If you are trying to migrate your test cases from any existing tool to Zephyr within Jira, then I have covered the import part of the test cases as well, how you can import the test cases within Jira. Apart from that, there will be the reporting section. So what all reports are available for the Zephyr that you can utilize to report the progress of your project or the testing within the project to the wider audience, and what are the best practices around the reporting. So all of that is covered. This is a short course but really well thought and covers each and every aspect of the software tester and developer into software development projects. So go ahead, enroll, and I'll see you in the class, and let's have happy learning. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to another brand new tutorial series on Zephyr for Jira. This tutorial series will be completely focusing on Zephyr for Jira tutorial and how to do test management within Jira using Zephyr plugin. Now before we get into the details of installation and understand other details about the Zephyr, let me first walk you through what exactly is Zephyr for Jira. So it's a test management plugin inside Jira. So within Jira, you can install this plugin and start managing your test cases or all the test management solutions within Jira itself. So you don't have to switch back to any other tool as such once you install Zephyr for Jira within Jira, and you can manage all the test related activities within Jira itself. If you go through this page of, the brief introduction, what exactly the plugin does is it's basically agile test management solution in Jira, because Jira is agile project management tool. So the plugins or the test management plugins within Jira follow the same principles and have similar features which help in agile test management activities. Now if you scroll down a little bit, you will see a lot of details around the key functionality. So you have the QA with the Jira test management solution. So within Jira you have the test management solution, and then you have the BDD, or you have the automation integration as well available with Zephyr. So with the tools, with the open source tools or with the smart bear tools, you can integrate Zephyr with the automated solutions or automation tools, and those tools, based on the execution that happen from the tool, based on the pass or fail criteria of the test cases, the updation will happen automatically within the Zephyr test cases. Okay, then you have a good reporting and analyzing quality metrics. So a lot of reports are available in Zephyr for Jira, which we'll cover in this whole tutorial series, right? So if you want to start learning any tool as such, this is my general advice. The best place to start learning is basically go through the tool, go through the documentation. Try to find the actual documentation that is available out there from the organization that has developed that tool. This is the best way to start learning something, because that's the source of truth that is coming from the people who have created that software, right? So that's the best place to start with, and that's how I start learning or preparing any tutorial series, or start learning and then implement in my projects as well. So here you have this documentation link. If I click on that, I'll go to the Zephyr docs, and this is what I'll be referring throughout this tutorial series. So this is the official Zephyr for Jira documentation, and this is what we'll be referring time to time, and I'll be explaining you a lot more detail about these documentation. And you don't have to basically go through each and every aspect of the documentation, because I'll be covering most of the key things that you will be using within your project as part of this tutorial series. So if you watch the tutorial series from starting to end, you will be in very good shape to use Zephyr for Jira very properly in your projects. Okay, so this is a brief about the documentation. Now let's go ahead and install Zephyr for Jira within our project, right? So within our Jira instance. So this is our Jira instance, and now in order to install Zephyr plugin, what you need to do is you simply need to go to the apps section. Now this is Jira Cloud instance. So this tutorial is focusing on Jira Cloud instance. So if you want to install any add-on as such, you have to go to the apps, and because Zephyr for Jira is an app or add-on, we'll go and find new app. Once you go to the find new apps, you'd simply have to search for the Zephyr, and here in the search for apps, I'll type in Zephyr and hit enter, and you will see Zephyr for Jira Test Management is there. Okay, so you simply have to basically click on it, and once you will click, it will redirect you to the same page that we had opened here. So marketplace.atlassian.com. So it will open it within your Jira instance where you are logged in, and you can try it free for 30 days. Okay, but this is a paid plugin, so you have to make sure, if you're learning, please make sure that you learn within 30 days, and once you are done, you cancel the subscription. Otherwise you will be charged $10 a month. If you want to view at the pricing details, so you can go to the details of the pricing. So we can go simply see details, and here you will see in the pricing section, up to 10 users you will be charged $10 monthly flat fee, but it is free for 30 days, right? So I'll be using it for 30 days, preparing the tutorial, and then we'll cancel the subscription. If you want to keep using it, you can continue using it. So I'll click on try it for free, and as soon as I'll say try it for free, then it will pop up this add to Jira window, and then I can click on start free trial. Okay, now you will get this pop-up adding Zephyr for Jira Test Management, and it will tell when the app has been added. So you will simply you can close it, right, and the installation will happen automatically, right? So you can see the pop-up now here, the Zephyr for Jira Test Management was added successfully. Okay, so if I want to manage the app now the app is available, I can go to manage app, and I should be able to see the app that I have installed, which is Zephyr for Jira in this particular instance. So it's loading, and now you can see Zephyr for Jira Cloud is available in the paid via Atlassian app section. Okay, so this is now available, and here I can manage. So I can either stop trial, okay, or uninstall it. So you have to make sure that within 30 days you have to learn, and then you stop trial and uninstall if you don't want to continue with using it for the professional or your projects. Okay, then if you scroll down, you will get the review section, etc. So this is basically how the Zephyr for Jira Cloud will look like once you go into the manage apps. Okay, now if I go to the Jira software again and refresh the window here, okay, now let's go to any project. Okay, so let's open classic Scrum project, and now in the left hand side you will see Zephyr has been added successfully, and it's available right in the menu. So if I click on Zephyr now, it will take me to the Zephyr menu, which will explain or which we'll learn in the next tutorial. All right, so this is a brief introduction about Zephyr for Jira and how you can install Zephyr for Jira in your cloud instance of Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope you like it. Please do share and subscribe. Please press the bell icon for getting the regular updates, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn a brief about the Zephyr interface and what all key sections are available once you install Zephyr. So we have already install Zephyr, and Zephyr is available in the left hand side menu here. So if I want to get into the details of the Zephyr, simply click on Zephyr, and here you will see the key sections, and I'll walk you through these key sections. So first one is basically Zephyr, which has the link what's new. So if you go to what's new, it will give you the detail of the current version and what is new in the current version or the version that you have installed. So you have a lot of documentation and integration details there to read out. Okay. The next section is around the design. So anything related to the test case design or the BDD feature design, importing the test cases or searching the test cases comes into the design category. So they have categorized the overall functionality of Zephyr into different main categories. So design is one of the categories wherein all the designing part of the test cases is available there. Okay. The next section is around the planning and execution. So once you have designed your test cases, the next step is to basically execute those test cases, right? So that's what the overall software testing life cycle is. So you design the test cases and then you create the test cycle and then execute those and analyze the reports or results. So the next section is around planning and execution. Once you design your test cases, you add those test cases into the test cycles that you create and execute those. So that's all. Anything related to planning and execution, all the features are categorized into the planning and execution section of Zephyr, which makes it very easy to plan and execute the test cases and basically navigate to the cycle summary or the overall executions. Then you have the next section as reporting, which comes after the execution. So after the execution has happened, you want to analyze the reports, right? Or you want to see the test summary. So in that particular case, what you need to do is you need to go through the reports that are available in Zephyr, and reporting section gives you all the details around the test metrics, test summary reports, and the traceability matrix. Now, traceability matrix is very important and it gets generated automatically if you do the proper Jira hygiene and link your test cases properly with the stories that you're trying to test. Okay, so that's all in the reporting section of Zephyr. Then you have another section which is basically the integrations. Okay, so in the integrations you will get a lot of administrative things or administrative functionality to integrate Zephyr with other tools. Say for example, open source, if you're using Selenium, you can integrate Zephyr with Selenium, and based on the execution that happens in Selenium, the test cases will get automatically updated in Zephyr. So all these sort of functionality or integrations with the external tool, for example, test automation, API keys, or you can get API keys, or with other tools like BDD Cucumber. All this integration happens or is available in the integration section. You can also integrate this with the continuous integration CI tools, and that is all available in the integration section. So I'll touch base a little bit about the integration as well in the advanced section of this tutorial. Then the last section that is available is around the settings. So you can customize Zephyr and you can have the custom fields in Zephyr as well, like in Jira. So in the settings, you can go to the Zephyr custom fields and customize Zephyr up to some extent or add the custom field. Then you have the Zephyr administration as well. So that will cover in the advanced part of the tutorial series. But these are the key sections that you will find in the Zephyr plugin after install. So if you try to look into the sections, so basically design, planning and execution, and reporting and integration. So they have categorized. So if you see the top three sections, design, planning and execution, and reporting, map very closely to the software testing lifecycle and will help you to navigate to these features easily and understand where the modules are or the Zephyr modules are, so that you can start working on it. So this is a brief introduction about the layout, and I'm covering this just considering that if you're completely new to Zephyr or you are a fresher and trying to learn the tool, you should be able to pick it up from very scratch and you don't find any difficulty to learn this particular tool. All right, so in the further tutorials, I'll start with the test case creation and basically we'll follow the same sequence. We'll go from the design, planning and execution, and then we'll go through the reporting. So it will be very basic, step by step, from the scratch till the advanced sections of Zephyr for Jira tutorial. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope you like it. Please do share and subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we will learn how to configure Zephyr within Jira. So sometimes when you install Zephyr for Jira, you have to configure it, and especially in the current Jira Cloud version. So you have this next gen projects as well, right? So you have to configure Zephyr for the next gen project separately, and then in the classic project I'll show you there is very common issue that happens once you install Zephyr add-on, and then you have to basically figure out how to fix that. Okay, so first thing first, let's first configure Zephyr so that we are able to create our test cases, right? So now at the moment, if I click on create button here, okay, and select, say for example, any next gen Scrum not the next gen, let's say classic Scrum project, and then in the issue type, ideally once we install Zephyr, the test issue type should be there, right? But it is not shown here. So this is very common issue which happens when you install Zephyr, and we have to first fix it out, right? So we have to get the test issue type in order to create the test cases in Zephyr. So what we need to do is basically we need to have the administration access. So if you have the administration access to Jira, which in this case, because you are learning, you would have signed up for Jira instance, you will be having administration access. So in the right hand side, go to the cogwheel here, click on it and go to the issues. Okay, so in the issues, we will first verify that the test issue type is there, right? So if you scroll down, you will see that the test issue type is there, which is basically the standard Jira issue type, which is used to create Zephyr test cases. So once you install Zephyr plugin, this issue type by default gets created, right? And if you see here, the default issue type scheme is related to it, right? So there are no other issue type schemes that are having this issue type, and that's the reason when we go to any particular project, then it is not displaying the issue type test into that particular project, because the projects are using their specific issue type schemes, right? So if I talk about this particular RT Scrum issue type scheme, or the project that I want to create an issue in, so for example, I want to create issue in this particular classic Scrum, which is the RT, the key with the RT. So in this, I don't have this issue type. So what I have to do is I simply have to go to basically I'll go to the issue type scheme. Okay, so from the left hand side, you can click on issue type schemes, and in the issue type scheme, in whichever project you want to add or you want to create the test cases, then you have to basically associate this particular issue type, which is test, to that particular scheme. Okay, to associate that, what you need to do is you simply edit this particular scheme. So I am editing this RT project, so this will be available in RT project. So once I edit it, you will see the available issue type is test available here. What you have to do is you have to simply drag and drop in the issue type for the current scheme. Okay, once you drag and drop it, click on save. Do not forget to save it. So click on save, and once it is saved, you will see that that particular scheme here, RT, has the test issue type. Now in this particular project, I will be able to create the test case. Okay, if I want to create a test case in this project, then I have to associate that issue type to this particular scheme as well. Okay, so now you know where to navigate in order to associate the test issue type to that particular scheme. So this is about the classic projects. Okay, now in Jira Cloud, you have the classic projects and the next gen project. So we have learned how to associate the test issue type to the classic project. Now if I click on create and select the project where we have associated that issue type, so RCV Classic Scrum, and now I should be having that test issue type available for me. Okay, so this is Zephyr issue type, which is named as test. Now I'll create the summary, or I will provide the summary as other issue type, or how we create the other issues in Jira, and provide the details and click on create to create the test cases. I'll cover creation of the test cases in separate tutorial. tutorial, but this is how you will enable the issue type test for any project in Zephyr in Jira Classic project. Okay, now if we go to Kanban, or if we go to next gen Scrum or next gen Kanban project, so for example next gen Scrum, and I want to enable Zephyr for next gen Scrum or next gen Kanban, the process is a bit different. So what we have to do is we have to go to the Zephyr section in the left hand side, and once I click on this particular link, you will see that we have to enable Zephyr for Jira project in RMS. Okay, and before we can start using Zephyr in next gen projects, these are the steps that I have to follow. So we have already done step 1, basically downloaded the Zephyr Zephyr icon. I don't want to download at the moment, but if you want to use a specific icon, Zephyr icon for the issue type, you download the icon so that you can use it for that particular issue type. For now, I'll use the default issue type, default icon that are available within Jira. Then we'll create an issue type in the project settings. So we can simply navigate from here to the project settings, and we need to create an issue type manually in the project settings. And then the issue type, we have to give the issue type an appropriate name and create it. Okay, and then once that issue type test has been created, we have to basically select that issue type and enable it, enable Zephyr for this particular next gen Scrum project. Okay, so let's go to the project settings and create the test issue type and then associate. Okay, so in the project settings, you can see to add an issue type, I simply can go to the add issue type and I'll provide the name. Okay, so I'll say test, and I can provide the description as well. If I want to change the icon, so usually you can download the icon as mentioned by Zephyr in the step 1, so and then associate that icon with this test. Okay, so that way you know by looking at the icon that this is Zephyr test case. Okay, for as of now I'll just leave it as is, but changing an icon is basically simply clicking on the change icon and picking up the file that you downloaded. Okay, so click on create now, so you can see that the issue test has been added there. All right, now the issue has been added. What I'll do is I'll go back to the project settings or the first page itself here. Okay, now let me refresh this so that the issue type is visible in the drop down. Okay, now here I can see test issue type has been created and available for us. Okay, so I'll simply choose the test issue type and enable Zephyr for Jira for this particular project. All right, now you can see Zephyr for Jira is ready. I simply have to click on create button to start creating the test cases within this particular next gen Scrum project. All right, if you want to go through the quick details that are provided here, just simply click on next. Anyways, I'll be covering that in this particular tutorial. Right, so that is done. And now within this project, if I want to create a test case, then I simply click on create and I'll be having the test issue type available in this particular next gen project as well. Right, so this is how you will enable the Zephyr for Jira into your next gen software project or the classic project. Right, so this is very important step before you can actually start creating test cases in Zephyr. Okay, so for the next gen Kanban project, the process will be almost similar. There is not much difference. So if I go to next gen Kanban and go to Zephyr, the process is exactly same. Right, so I have to create an issue type and then associate that issue type with this particular project. Okay, so that's all for this tutorial. Hope you like it. Please do share and subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell icon for further notifications and updates. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how you can create your first test case in Zephyr. So we have already understood about the installation steps, how to configure Zephyr for Jira projects, and now let us start with the first test case creation within Zephyr. Before we get into the test case creation, I would like to walk you through the quick start guide in the Zephyr docs. So if you go to the Zephyr documentation and go to the quick start, you will see the couple of test processes that are available within Zephyr that they support. So you have simple test process, then test process with basic execution planning, or in the right hand side you have more structured test process. So as of now, what I'll do is I'll start with the very basic approach. So we'll start with the simple test process, and once you are comfortable with the simple test process, which is basically creating a test case, then executing, and then, filing bug and checking the metrics, which is basically the reports. So I'll start with the simple test process, and then I'll try to correlate the whole approach with the more structured test process. So if you are working in, a big enterprise and you are using Zephyr for Jira there, how you will use Zephyr for Jira properly within your enterprise project so that you can manage the test cases properly within your enterprise. Okay, so let us first understand how you can create the first test case. So in any test process, the test case creation is the first part of it, right? So we need to first understand how you can go ahead and create the test cases. So here I have some sample test cases, dummy test cases that I have created. Say for example, user registration using Google account. So in this particular case, I want to have a couple of title, description for the particular test case. So this is my title, this is description, and this is in my Excel sheet, and these are the steps. So basically there will be steps and the expected results in the test case. Then there will be one more section around the test data. So this is just a dummy sample simple test case just to show you how you can add this test case into Zephyr. So I'll go to the project here, and we have already enabled Zephyr issue type in this RT project or classic Scrum project. Now to create a test case, it's very simple process. It's exactly similar to creating any other issue type in Jira. So simply click on create from here and select the issue type as test. Okay, so you have to make sure you select the project where you want to create this particular test case, and then issue type. In the summary, you provide the summary. In the description, you provide the description. So for example, in the summary, I'll provide the title. Okay, so let me put the title there, and in the description, I'll provide this description. All right, and then you have all other options which are almost similar with other issue types that we have already seen in the Jira Cloud tutorial series. So here you have, reporter. If you want to change the reporter, you can change it here, but by default, it will take the reporter whosoever is logged in and reporting this particular test case. Assignee, if you want to assign this particular test case after creation to someone else, you can assign it to someone else. Then priority is another important thing here. So if you want to categorize your test cases as in different priorities, then you can select the priorities from here as well. Okay, if you want to categorize or add the labels to the test cases, now labels will help you to quickly search the issues, and if you want to get more detail about the Jira labels and searching, then watch my Jira Cloud tutorial series or other Jira series that I have posted. Then story points, sprint, etc. These are not very relevant to the test cases. I mean, sprint is relevant, but story points, usually we do not measure as such the test cases in terms of story points. Sprint, if you want to assign sprint in, you want to execute those test cases or write the test cases within the sprint, then you assign the sprint in that particular case. Epic, you choose the epic that this particular test case relates to the higher level user story as such. Okay, once you have all these details entered, click on create. If you want to create another test case, simply click on this checkbox and this window will keep open. Okay, so I'll create this particular test case. Now you would be wondering that we haven't provided steps anywhere, right? So once you have created this particular test case, open it, and here once you open this particular test case, you will see these Zephyr options are available, right? So this is Zephyr actions, then test details, and then test execution details. Okay, so in order to add the details or the steps, you have to click on test details icon here, and you will see test step, test data, and test result sections are available here, right? So now we will start adding the steps. Okay, so I'll add the step 1 as launch RCV app. Okay, in the test data, you provide the test data. Okay, so if say for example you need the username and password to log into the particular application, you provide that test data accordingly here. Okay, so that it's tracked. Then I'll provide the expected result and click on add step. Click on this add step. So you can see that step has been added. Let me quickly add other 4 steps as well. Alright, so all the 4 steps of this particular test case have been added. Test data, as per your test cases, you will enter the test data as well if required. Otherwise, you will leave that test data field as blank, right? So the test steps have been added. Now, if you want to, update other things here, say for example, you want to add more description, you can edit the description just by clicking on this particular text here, and it will open the edit window. All right. If I click on the Zephyr actions, you will see that it will open the action to execute or to add to the test cycle, right? So which we'll cover when we move to the next step of this whole software testing life cycle within Zephyr. Okay. Then if I go to the test executions, you will find any previous test executions that have happened for this particular test case, or whether this particular test case was included as part of any previous test execution. So that all history will be available here in the test execution section. All right. So this is basically a brief about the adding of the test case, or how to add test case in Zephyr for Jira. Okay. Very simple process. Just simply you have to create the issue type and change the issue type as test, and then add the steps into that particular test case. So this is one way. If you want to navigate through the Zephyr interface, what you can do is you can click on Zephyr as well, okay, in the left hand side, and from here you can click on create a test. So if you click on create a test, it will open exactly same window, which is create issue. You select the project where you want to create your test case, select the issue type, provide summary, and all other details as I have discussed in the previous, screen, and click on create to create that particular test case. And then later you edit and add the steps into that particular test case, right? So these are 2 ways basically, or 2 places where you can navigate to create the issue. So simply click on either create button here, or the better option is go to the Zephyr interface and click on create test case from here. Okay, so that's all for this tutorial on how to create test case in Zephyr for Jira. Hope you like it. Please do share and subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how to create a BDD feature in Zephyr for Jira. So in the previous tutorial, we have already seen how you can create the normal test case in Zephyr. Now let us understand what BDD feature is and how you can create BDD feature in Zephyr for Jira. Now before we get into the Jira, let me first explain you what exactly BDD is. So if you see on my screen here, I have created a sample story and then some of the scenarios. Okay, so when we talk about BDD stands for behavior driven development. What this means is, so there are many development approaches that we have been following from past couple of decades. So you would have already understood about, waterfall or V model, test driven development. Then behavior driven development is another approach wherein we cater the requirement or the end user requirement in form of user stories, and the user stories represent the requirement in behavior driven development. The whole point of doing behavior driven development is basically so that everyone gets the requirement in plain English, which is easily understood by the business, by the technical people, by the tester. So anyone who is working within the project has the similar understanding as part of that user story, which comes as the requirement. So now if you see on my screen, so there is a user story that I have created, sample user story, which is basically Google email registration for new user, right? So this is a very common scenario when you're trying to create an email account on Google or Google email. There are a couple of things that you need to do. So if you are working in any project or you are trying to build any project, this is how you will be getting the requirements when you are following the BDD approach. So you'll have the feature or you'll have the high level user story, which will say something like, as a I want so that. So these are, sort of keywords, the keywords that are highlighted in yellow. So the format of writing the user story is basically as some user, what you want to do. So as a user, what I want to achieve on that particular software or application or whatever, so that there is some outcome. Okay. So here in this case, as a new Google email user, I want to register for Google email account so that I can draft new email, right? So this is how a user story generally looks like. Now, this is very simple dummy user story that I have created. In actual projects, you will have hundreds of user stories which will cater for the project's requirement or the product's requirement. Now, below these user stories, you will have the scenarios. Now, scenarios are basically, you can say, like a test scenario in the normal testing concept. In BDD approach, scenarios are similar scenarios that can be utilized by test team to actually verify that the software works as expected. And these scenarios can be also added, updated as per the tester's input or test team's input. Within the whole team, these scenarios can be added as well by the testers, or feedback given to the business analyst to basically update the scenarios or add the missing scenarios. So that's all whole process, that how it follows. Now, scenario, when we talk about, say for example, scenario 1 says user opens registration page. So given Rama is the user, so Rama is on the Google email home page. When he clicks on registration link, then Google registration page should open successfully, right? So this is first scenario. Now, when you are testing as a tester, when you are testing this particular, user story, you will go through this scenario and you will try to cater for the testing around this scenario. Okay. And then you will apply all the approaches that you have learned as part of the testing to basically test this particular scenario or the scenarios that are mentioned in this particular user story. So these are some of the scenarios that will be added as well, right? So this is a sample user story with some scenarios. Okay. Now I have covered this basic so that if you are very new to BDD feature, you know what BDD feature is and why you are adding the BDD feature in Zephyr for Jira. Now, Zephyr is the test management tool within Jira, but there are many teams who follow behavior-driven development, and those teams do not want to have separate test case for each of these, like scenarios. So many teams or many projects, what they do is they basically have the scenario as source of truth, and those scenarios are then passed on to the testers to basically refine them and then also add more permutation combination, and then also utilize those scenarios as the automation script, or use these feature files as the automation baseline, and they automate these scenarios using tools, for example, Selenium. So I'll cover all that in maybe separate tutorial, how the whole BDD approach in the real time works in the project. Okay. So as of now, I have explained a brief about the BDD, how the user story looks and how the scenarios look. Now let us go ahead and add a BDD feature in Zephyr. Okay. So let me go back to the project here. Let me open the classic Scrum project, and in the classic Scrum project, let's open Zephyr. So in the left hand side, I'll open Zephyr, and we have already understood how to create normal tests in the previous tutorial. If you haven't watched through, please go through the previous tutorial and watch it, because we'll be going through the sequence in the way the features are included in this particular Zephyr instance. I'll go in the sequence. So here, to create a BDD feature, click on create a BDD feature. So there are two ways. This is the first way to create a BDD feature, and BDD feature, the issue type will be a story. Okay. So usually a feature comes as a story, and a story is written with the format that I have shown. So basically this is the story as a new Google user. I want to, so that, right? So your business analyst will basically add these user stories. Okay. So I'll add the summary and then add the description, right, into the description area. If there are any components I want to choose, I can choose that. If you want to fill other details, you can. But if you see here in the label, so BDD underscore feature is the label that enables, or this is the default label that is available or gets created when you install Zephyr. Okay, so this label identifies that this is the BDD feature, or this story is the BDD feature. All right, so make sure that this label is there. When you will create a BDD feature, it will by default be there. Okay, so you can click on create and this user story will get created. Okay, so if I click on this particular user story RT32, now I have the description, okay, and I have the title there. Okay, so now I can add the feature content. So if you see this icon here, this is the feature content. If I click on feature content, I can add the background and scenarios. Okay, so let me add the scenarios here. So here, if you see, these are the scenarios in my case. Okay, so in order to add the scenarios, what we can do is we can simply go to, here, and I can enter the name of the scenario. Okay, so what is the name of the scenario? User opens registration page. Okay, so this is my first scenario. I'll provide the name of the scenario. Okay, and you can see the scenario got added successfully. So let me quickly add all 4 scenarios. So once you have all the 4 scenarios added, now you can go within these scenarios and add the scenario details. So in this case, these are the details that will go into the scenarios. Okay, so let me open RT33, and within this particular scenario, I can provide the details in the given when then format. All right, so here now, once I open this scenario, user opens a registration page. If you see, you have Zephyr actions, you have test details, and you have test execution. So if you click on test details, here I can specify the test details in given when then format. Okay, so it by default provides you the keyword. So these are the keywords. So given when then are the BDD keyword, which will by default be recognized in this particular case. So I can simply say given when then, I'll copy that and let me add that into here. Okay, so since I have copied, it hasn't identified them automatically, but if I say given and then when, so this is lowercase, basically when and then. Okay, so this test detail got added. Similarly, I'll add others. Okay, so let me quickly add the test details for others. All right, so I have added all the scenarios that are available there. Okay, so the details of the scenarios. So let me refresh this. So this is my user story, okay, which has been added, and it has 4 scenarios within it, and the details of the scenarios have been added. Okay, so below you can see that the scenarios that I have added have automatically linked to this particular issue, to this particular user story, and then scenarios are available here, and you can see the Zephyr BDD icon there. All right, if you want to add new scenarios, again, you simply have to provide the name and keep adding the new scenarios. Now in the BDD background, if I click on the background, it's again a similar Gherkin structure. So given when then is basically a Gherkin syntax, which is mostly used for the BDD development. Okay, and I'll cover that when I cover the Selenium BDD automation as well, so which will be coming in a couple of weeks or maybe 1 or 2 months. So in the background, these sentences or these syntaxes that you write in given when then format, these will be executed prior to each of these scenario or the test that you have mentioned here. Say for example, user opens registration page, and if you have entered something in the background, so the background will run first, then this particular registration page test will run, then again the background will run prior to the next test or next feature, next scenario, then again background will run, then next scenario will run, and so on and so forth. All right, so this is the purpose of the background. Now once this BDD feature has been added, you have added the content, you can now download this BDD file or the feature file. the advantage of this is now this feature file can be utilized by the testers when they are doing the automation for this particular user story. Okay, so now testers don't have to basically rewrite all the information or prepare the feature file. I can simply click on the download and you can see the feature file has been downloaded. Okay, and here if I expand this, it has automatically formatted with all the tags that are available. So the story number and the scenarios that have been added, and this feature file along with given, when, then, Gherkin syntax is available now for us to take it up and use it into our behavioral driven development or BDD automation, okay, with any BDD tool. So this is the whole point of having the BDD feature file, or how to create, BDD feature in Gherkin. So this is very brief introduction of the BDD, how the user story usually looks like, what it is, how the features look like, and what are scenarios and how you can add BDD scenarios in Zephyr for Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell icon. And thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we will learn how to search test cases within Jira Zephyr. So once you have installed Zephyr, you have enabled Zephyr, and you have added the test cases within the projects. And once the test cases are added, it's basically very much required that you will be searching different, test cases based on certain criteria. Now, searching test cases in Jira is exactly similar as searching any other issue type. Okay, so let's first go through this particular project, which is classic Scrum project, and let me go to the Zephyr interface. So in the left hand side, now I'm in the Zephyr interface, and in order to search the test cases, you have this search tests link already. So if I click on search tests, it will redirect me to the search or the filters tab at the top. If you see, the filter tab is highlighted, and by default when you click on search test, you will see the type of the issue type is by default selected as test. All right, now this is what the search for test window will look like, and this is the very basic search. So what it does is it basically, so whichever project you are in, so because I was in the RCV Classic Scrum project and I clicked on search test cases, it by default selected that particular project in the filter and also the type of issue as test. And now you can see it is filtering all the test cases that are available in this particular project. So this is how you will search for the test cases within Jira. Now this is very basic search. Now say for example you have a specific criteria to basically search for particular test cases, then you can specify the criterias from the other drop downs that you see here, right? So you can say I want to search all the test cases that have been completed or done. Okay, so you can simply click on the done and it will filter out the test cases that have been done, right? So in this case, none of the test cases were done, so none of them were being filtered out. Similarly, if you want to filter the test cases based on assignee, you can do that, and there are a lot more options to filter the test cases as per different criteria. So if you click on more, you will get a lot of other criteria that are available. Say for example, you want to search the test cases based on reporter, resolution, component, or other criteria that you see here. So change region or change risk. So this is very similar to searching any other issue type in Jira. So the only difference is basically now in this particular case, you are just focusing on searching the test cases, right? So this is specific search for the test case when you select only the issue type as test. All right. But searching any other issue type is exactly similar to searching the test issue type. Okay. The other option is you can go to the advanced search or go to the search using the Jira query language, which is more advanced search, wherein you can, if I switch to that, you can type in your own query, right? And if you haven't gone through my Jira tutorial series wherein I have explained JQL search in a lot more detail and how you can implement or apply the JQL search and filter out the results like a pro. So if you haven't watched those series, please go through, watch it. It will be really helpful for your work in the project, and you will be filtering the issues or figuring out or finding the issues very easily if you learn how to search the issues in Jira using the Jira query language or advanced search. Okay, so I won't go into much detail about the JQL here because the whole purpose is basically to show you where you can navigate to basically search for issues within or search for the test cases within Zephyr for Jira. In the left hand side, you will have a lot of filters that you can also use. So for example, you have my open issues reported by me, but these are general filters as such, or the Jira filters. Specific to test cases, you will get the details when you go to the Zephyr interface. So for example, let me go back here, classic Scrum, and from this Zephyr interface, so when we click on Zephyr, and then if I want to search test, this is how I will search test from the Zephyr interface, or I can go directly to the filters and then use the default Jira search to filter only the test issue type within Zephyr. So if I directly go to the filters here and search for, say for example, I want to advanced issue search, so it will redirect me to the same page, and I can filter out the tests from that search, right? So here, if you see, all the issues are being displayed. Now, if I want to filter only the test, then I can directly switch to basic and type. In the type, I can just filter the test case, right? So from here, I can just filter test case, and all the test cases will be filtered out. Okay. So these are different ways to basically navigate to the search page and search the test cases within Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello guys, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how you can import the test cases from Excel sheet within Jira. So let's get started, and I'll move to the Scrum project within Jira Cloud. Now please note that this is Jira Cloud instance that I'm going to demo. For Jira server version, the concept still remains same, but you might have to follow with different steps. So I'll cover what all import possibilities are there to import the test cases from the Excel sheet within Jira, and then like you can correlate accordingly if it is a cloud version or the server version. Most probably once I am working on the server version, I'll try to create another video on importing the test cases on the server version as well, so that it is handy for you to use in your projects. So at this point, I'll cover this cloud project or the cloud Jira instance, and here I am in the classic Scrum project, which is one of the projects that I created. And in order to import the test cases from Excel file, we need to go to the Zephyr section here, and in the Zephyr section you will see that we have covered until searching the test cases. Now in order to import the test cases, I'll simply click on import tests, and I'll walk you through what all options are available for importing test cases, and then we'll go ahead and demo the import option, right? So this is the import or the internal import that is available within Zephyr for Jira when you install the plugin. So this is the internal importer that is available, and this is the first window of the internal importer. Okay, so let me open this documentation page, and I'll explain you what all options are available there. So documentation, official documentation is the best starting point to basically start learning any tool. So internal importer is what we are looking at, but there are other options to import test cases as well. For example, the external importer, or if I go to the external importer, you will see that a Zephyr importing tool or the utility that is there. So Zephyr for Jira tests importer utility, which is if I click on this, it is ZFJ importer utility, right? So this is the external importer that you can use as well. But because I am on the Jira Cloud version, this will suffice my case. I can use internal import or internal importer and can import the test cases, right? So these are the two options. Just keep in mind in terms of interview questions and all, you can answer that yes, there is a ZFJ utility that I can use, or there is Jira importers plugin as well, which is also available. With these two are the external importers, and internal importer is what we are going to look into, right? So here, if you see on this particular page, you have the option to choose the file. So in this case, we'll be choosing the Excel file, and then there is an option to choose the existing configuration, which I'll explain all in the detail. Prior to preparing your Excel file, the first thing is basically to go ahead and check the existing test cases and map your fields that are available in the existing test cases in the Excel sheet accordingly. Okay, so let me open one of the test case and first see what all fields are available on this particular test case, right? So I have this description, test case name field, then I have the description field, then I have, if I go to the test details field, this is BDD test case. Let me open the normal test case, which has the steps, right? So in this case, this is the normal test case, and then this is the description, then I have the test step, test data, test result, right, and the sequence accordingly. Apart from this, I have other fields and options. So here I have assignee, reporter, and other fields that are available on this particular test case issue type, right? Now when you are preparing your Excel sheet, make sure that you try to correlate whatever fields are available here within your Excel sheet. Let's go ahead and open the Excel sheet, and here I have the file already in the download. So I have prepared a folder, and these are the sample test case files that I have created, or Excel file. Okay, so let me open this sample 21.xlsx. Here you can see that I have created the columns accordingly, right? So the columns are very well defined, and when you are trying to map these columns to the existing fields in your test case, you will be able to identify these columns, right? So for example, test case name, if I go to the here on this particular test case field here, or the issue type, the test case name will be mapped to the user registration or the name of the test case, right? Then I have the description. So I have a column for the name, I have a column for the description in my Excel sheet, right? Then I have another column for the test step, another column for the test data, wherein I'll put all the test data. Then I have another column for the test result. Okay, so I have tried to make these columns very similar to what the values are there, or the field names are there on the actual issue type, right? So test step, test data, test result, assignee, reporter. So if you keep them similar to what you are getting here in this particular issue type, then it will be easier for you to map. Okay, so here for example, if you see I have test step, test data, test result, and labels. So these are the only fields as of now I'm trying to import, and I'm going to demo with these. But in case you want to have more fields, for example assignee and all, you can anyways add those columns further as per the values that are available here, right? And then basically say for example I want to add story points as well, so simply in the Excel sheet add a column for story points and provide the values in the story points column in the particular issue, right? And that field will also get imported. Okay, so this is all about the preparation of the file. So if I open this particular file, you can see the name, test case name I have provided, right? So these are all headings which we will ignore while importing, okay, because we don't want to import the first row. We'll start from second row, because second row is the test case that we are trying to import. This is the test case description, these are the test steps and the test data, if any, the result, and I am adding the labels to these particular test case. Now these 4 rows here are one test case, then second test case starts from row 6, and this is how the test case will be added, right? So in actual scenario, so for example you are trying to add the test cases from your Excel sheet, you will prepare the Excel sheet similarly, and whatever fields you want to import, you add those into this particular Excel sheet, save it, and then we'll start the import, right? So I want to highlight one more thing in preparation of this particular Excel sheet is basically your first row. If you see here is the test case, right? So all the details, so name, description goes in here, then all the test cases or the test steps for that particular test case go further. So you can number them there. So depending on how many test steps a particular test case has, those many numbers, and these all rows will be empty here or blank. The next test case will start after all the steps of first test case have been completed here, right? So these test steps are being added. Then in the test data, if there is any data, you put the data, otherwise you can leave these columns or the cells blank. Similarly in the test result and in the labels and assignee. So these labels and assignee are specific to the test case, right? So you no need to add these labels for each and every step. So even with the first step, if you are the first row for a particular test case, you add these particular values, right? So you have to follow this particular format, and then the import will be perfectly fine. Once the new test case start, you add the test case name for the new test case description and follow the same process. So you can just copy and paste and keep changing the steps and the description and the name of the test cases and prepare your Excel file. So let me close this and let's start the demo of import. So let me go back to the project where I want to import. So because this is the internal importer, I'll go to the project where I want to import these particular test case. So I'll go to the classic Scrum project. Now from this project, I'll go to the Zephyr section here, go to the import tests, and here you will have import tests into the project that you have chosen. And now we have to simply choose the file that we have created. So Excel source file, I'll choose it, and let me go to that particular folder. I'll choose the sample 21 file, and so once the file is selected, you can simply click on next. Right, so we have to start from row number 2 because row number 1 is our heading. So I'll simply change it to row number 2 in Excel. And if you want to import all sheets that are available in your Excel sheet, then simply select import all sheet. If you want to import the selected sheet, then you select the selected and provide the name of the sheet that you have provided. So for example, test case or sheet 1 or sheet 2, whatever. So I'll leave it as import all sheets. Okay, and then it will ask for the discriminator. So discriminator, there are many options. So empty row, ID change, or test case name change. So in this case, if I go to that particular folder, open this particular file, you will see the discriminator that I am going to choose after the first test case ends is the second test case, which is the test case name change, right? So this is the second test. So I'll use test case name change in this particular case, right? So I'll say test case name change and then click on next. Now you have to do the mapping. So once you are in the mapping field, you have to basically map the Jira Zephyr fields that are available there. So these are the fields that are available for the Zephyr and Jira. And then in the right hand side, these are the fields that you have specified or you want to map basically to the fields in the Jira. So these are the fields that are available in our column of the Excel test case importer, right? So these are the 6 or 7 columns that we have, right? So we have test case name, description, then hash for the numbering, step, data, test result, and labels, right? So these are the 7 values that are available that we have to map in this particular case. So map, as we have seen, name will map with the test case name, right? And then step will map with test step, right? Then we'll map the test data with the test data. And that's the reason, like keeping the columns similar to what you have in the fields helps you to map them very easily, right? So you can map step to the test step, test data to test data, result to test result. Okay, and then we have map name to name, then we have the labels, we'll map the labels to the labels, and then we'll map the description to the test case description, right? So once we have mapped all the fields here, now you can click on next. So once you are done with the mapping, you can validate the mapping, whether the mapping is perfectly fine. So I'll click on validate and it will show you that the 2 issues will be created correctly. Once you get this green tick, you can simply click on begin import. Prior to that, if you want to save this configuration, so that next time you don't have to map these columns again and again, click on save the configuration and it will download ZFZ import config JSON file that we can use in the next time when we are trying to import. So I have downloaded it already, and then I can click on begin import. And once the import starts, once the import will be successful, you will get the green successful message that import has been successful, right? So you can see 2 issues have been imported successfully. If you want to start another import, you can click on begin another import. Now we don't want to start another import at the moment. We want to see that the import has been successful. So I'll go to the search tests, and in the search tests you can see that these two issues 46 and 47 are the issues that got imported just now. So if I click on user registration, and here you will see that the label Google Tests has been added, the name, the description, and then if I click on the test case details, you will see that all the 4 steps have been added along with the test data, right, that we have in the Excel sheet. So if I open the Excel sheet, you will see user registration using Google account, the description, these 4 steps along with the test data. So test data URL, result, and labels have been added. So for this particular test case, the label has added, all the steps have been added, and the test case has been imported successfully. Now say for example, I want to update this particular Excel sheet and I want to have the assignee as well. Okay, so in that particular case, what you need to do is you need to first get the ID of a person whom you want to assign, right? So if I click on this assignee at the moment, I will get RCV tutorials, right? This is the name of the assignee. But when we are trying to import in Jira Cloud and want to have the assignee as the value in the Excel sheet, then we have to get the ID from the Jira admin. So I'll explain you how you can get it, but similar is the case, you know, for few other fields as well, but I'll explain with assignee. So if you are having issues by providing the name of the field or the value when trying to import, you simply go ahead and add the assignee in that particular case. So let me first find out how you can get the assignee of this RCV tutorial user. Okay, so how you will get it? So simply go to the this administration section. Okay, so in the administration section, once you are Jira administrator, go to the user management, and in the user management, if you will go to the particular user, I'll show you how you can get the ID. So in the users here, if I want to get the ID for this particular, say for example, RCV tutorials itself, once I'll click on it, the front part of after this user / is the ID for this particular user. Okay, so if I want to have this test case that is being imported assigned to this particular user, I'll copy this, and then in this particular sheet, what I'll do is I'll simply add the field assignee, and then in the assignee I'll provide the ID of the user who will be the assignee. Okay, so I have added another column there. Let me format it, and then I'll simply format the whole table. I'll save it, and now if I want to import these test case again, let me change these test case as well a little bit so that we can identify that these are other test case. So I have added ID in front of the test case name. So let me close it. And now if I go back to the same project, let's go to the same project, and in the classic Scrum project, let's try to import the test cases again, which assign these test cases after importing to a particular user that we have chosen into the Excel file. Okay, so now I'll go to the Zephyr, and this time we'll use the importer config. Okay, so we'll use the importer config. So let me open the folder where it is. So it is in the ZFZ import .1.json. Okay, so I'll use that. So go to the import tests, and in the import tests, we'll again choose the file that we want to import. So this time we have updated this Excel with the assignee as well. I have chosen that particular file. I'll use the existing configuration. Okay, I'll choose the file, and in the existing configuration, I'll use this JSON file, okay, that I have downloaded. Now, once I'll click on next, you will see that it already has those configuration. It started from row number 2. I don't have to change it again. I'll go next, and it will automatically, this time it will have these fields mapped automatically. So these are the configuration that got saved. Now because we added the assignee field as well this time, so we'll map the assignee again, right? So in the drop down, now you'll see assignee is available. This is coming from the Excel, the updated Excel. Okay, so I have chosen the assignee. I'll go next. I'll validate again, and you will see the green tick here. 2 issues will be created correctly. I'll click on begin import. So once the import will be successful, the 2 test cases will be added and assigned to a particular user. So you can see 2 issues have been imported successfully. Let's go back to the search tests and see those tests are available now. Okay, so you can see these 2 test cases have the ID in front, which I have updated, and here you can see assignee is available now for these 2 test cases, right? Because when we try to import, we added the assignee into the Excel file as well. If I go or open these test cases, all other details will be exactly similar. It has the label, it has the description, the test case name. If I go to the details, it has all the steps that we have provided into the test case in the Excel file, right? So this is brief introduction or the end-to-end demo how you will import the test cases from Excel file into Jira Zephyr. Okay, key thing to remember here is that you try to prepare. First, you see what is the template of your test case, what all fields are available on that particular template, which is this particular template, and then try to map the Excel sheet. So if I open this Excel sheet and I'll minimize it, so try to map the column names as close as you can with the field name. So for example, test case name, I know that this is the name. Description, I know this is the description, right? Test step, I know this test step will be mapped to this test step here. Okay, so as closely as you will be able to map and follow the steps that have been explained here in this particular tutorial, importing test case in Zephyr Jira is really a breeze and not a problem at all. Okay, in case you are having issues with some of the fields, for example, I have explained about the assignee, and it's not able to identify the name that you will provide in the sheet, it will provide you the error, then you have to find the actual ID. Okay, so similar might be the case with the sprints as well, right? So sprint is also an ID or stored as an ID internally in Jira, so you might have to provide the actual sprint ID and not the actual name of the sprint, right? So these are some of the small things that you need to remember, but otherwise importing test case, as we have seen, is really easy and simple process in Zephyr for Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope you like it, hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how to create test cycles in Zephyr for Jira. So before we get started into the test cycles, let me walk you through this particular page. We have already seen the test process in Zephyr. So in Jira project, these are some of the test processes that you can follow. The one is simple test process with basic execution planning. So depending on how much planning you do, you can choose particular sort of test process. When we talk about simple test process, it is basically, you directly go ahead and start executing the test case. You pick a test case and you execute it in the ad hoc mode. Okay, but that's not what we want to basically formalize as a standard in large organizations, or if you're working in big projects, you would be most of the time following the structured test process. So if you're following the structured test process, then we have to structure the test cases, or even in terms of execution, we have to make sure that we execute the test cases within the test cycle, right? So if you see here, we first set up the test cycle. This is more of a structured execution planning, and then we create test case and we assign those test case to those test cycles, right? And then we execute the test cases within the cycle. So that's more of a structured approach. Then in the next one is again a structured test process, wherein you have you organize the test case properly, which I'll cover anyways, how you can organize the test case by adding different version, label, etc., and folder structures, etc. Then in the planning phase, you prepare the test cycle. So let's go ahead and understand how you can prepare the test cycle so that we can add the test cases into test cycle and start executing those. Okay, so let me go back to the project here. Now I'll go to the Zephyr section here, and if we go to the cycle summary here, so in the planning and execution, go to the cycle summary, and in the cycle summary, so once you are in the cycle summary, you will see create new test cycle. Okay, so to create a new test cycle, you simply click on create new test cycle, and it will ask for the version of the test cycle. So you can select whatever version. So at the moment there are no versions as such, so so it goes into the unscheduled. But if there are versions available, I'll create the version and I'll show you the version section as well. But as of now, I'll simply add the name of the test cycle. So I'll say for example v1.0. we are doing some release 1.0, and we are trying to execute some of the test cases, regression test cases for that version 1.0 release. Okay, so I can name it as v1.0 regression. Naming convention follow as per your company's guideline or the project guideline. You provide the name there, you provide the description. If there is a specific build that you are testing against, say for example 1.5.23, if you have the build number, you provide the build number. If there is a specific environment where you are trying to test it, then you can provide the environment. So for example, I'm testing it into SIT environment or system integrated test environment. What is the duration? So for example, I need to execute this for 2 weeks. So this is 2 weeks regression cycle. Then I can choose the duration. Okay, so as of now, I can simply say 2 weeks and then click on save. So once I'll save, you will see the success message and you will see the regression test cycle has been created successfully. If I click on it, you will see all the details of this particular test cycle are available here, along with the build, environment, who created it, and then once you have the test cases within it, if you are executing the test cases, it will give you total execution time and all other details for this particular test cycle, right? If you want to, say for example, you want to delete this particular test cycle, in the right hand side of this particular test cycle, you have this 3 ellipses. If you click on it, you can add the tests, you can add a new folder. So below this cycle, I can say UI test, say for example. Okay, so I can add a folder below this particular cycle. So you can see now the folder UI is available below this particular cycle. To structure all the regression test cases that are related to UI component or the user interface can be added into this particular folder. So this gives you more, a flexible approach and a cleaner look and feel to organize your test case, right? So now I can add all the test cases that are related to the UI into the UI folder. Rather than having all the test cases into just this particular cycle, I can structure them within the folders. Okay, so I can add the new folder, I can add the test cases directly to this particular cycle or add in the folders. If I want to edit this particular cycle, click on edit and it will open the same window, edit cycle window, and I can edit the details that I want to edit. Okay, I'll cancel it as of now. Then you can clone or move this particular cycle. Okay, so I can say move. If I click on move, then I can move this cycle from unscheduled to any particular version. So if there are any unreleased, say for example at the moment there is only unreleased and unscheduled, so I can move this particular cycle to a specific version, which is another very important feature. So for example, I have created this cycle but I want to move it to another version or release, I can select that. Okay, the next important thing is around the clone. So cloning, what it helps is, say for example, I'll simply clone. Okay, so it will create a clone of the exact similar cycle with all the details there. Okay, the next important thing is export. So if you want to export the test cycle, you can select the type. So you can select the CSV or HTML or XML and then export the overall regression or whatever test cycle, right, that has been available. So once the export is available, you will see that the details of the test cycle, if I open it, have been imported into the CSV format, right? So you can see all the details are exported. Let me add a couple of test cases there so it's more clear. So let me say, for example, here I'll add some of the test cases. So click on add test. Now adding the tests within this particular test cycle, I can add individually by typing in the test or via the search filter or by another test cycle. Okay, so I'll cover this adding test cases in detail, so don't worry about that. I'll simply just say type in some. Okay, so I'll pick a couple of tests there, right? If you want to assign it to a particular person, I'll simply assign it to myself and add these. So now these 2 test cases will get added to this particular folder, which is part of the v1.0 regression test cycle, right? So you can see tests added. Now I'll close it and these 2 test cases are added, right? Now if I clone this, we clone it, we create another test cycle. And now if let me open this folder again. So there are two test cases. I have cloned this particular cycle. If I open this particular cycle here and go to the folder, those test cases will also be added if you clone, right? So I have cloned that particular test cycle, and the clone test cycle has all the test cycle details and the test cases also being added. So I don't have to add those test cases again and again, right? Now let me try to export these cycle again and show you the export details. So let me export to CSV and see what all details are being exported from the test cycle. Okay, so let me open this particular CSV file. So here now you can see that this particular execution and all the cycle, you can see that the clone cycle and the test cases that are being added into the cycle are also being exported, right? So this is what the export does. So if you export the test cycle, it will export the test cases that are being added along with the test steps within, right? So you can export the test cycle. Let me close it. In order to delete a test cycle, simply go to the ellipses and click on delete button here, and it will ask for the confirmation for deletion. Are you sure you want to continue? Click on delete if you're sure and want to delete, and you can see the test cycle has been deleted successfully, right? So these are some of the brief tasks that you can do in order to create the test cycle, and what all edit and delete configuration is available for the test cycle. Then there are two more features here: download feature files and upload Cucumber results, which is more of a when you are working with the BDD features, then you can work on these two. You can download the feature file directly from here, or you can upload the Cucumber result, which we'll cover in later tutorials. So that's all about the creating of the test cycle in Zephyr for Jira. And the other important thing is around the released or the versions that you see here. So in case you are not seeing the versions here, most probably it's because the versions are not being created in the project for your project. So if I go to the project settings, let me create the version and I'll show you the release and versions here. So in the project, I go to the versions in the left hand side, and in the versions I can create a version. Okay, so let me create quickly. So I'll provide the name here. So let me say 1.1.50, something like that. You can provide the description if there is any start date or end release date for the particular version. So for example, you are releasing every month, you provide the start date and the release date for that particular version. Provide the description and click on save. So this will add version 1.1.50. And now if I go back to Zephyr, I should be having that version available into my test cycle. So I can map my test cycle to a particular version. Okay, so let me open it. So now here I am in the cycle summary, and now you can see 1.1.50 version is available. I have ad hoc test cycle by default, wherein I can add the test cases randomly and execute those, but I can also add or create a new test cycle for this particular version, and I can execute all my test cases for this particular test or this particular version. Okay, and I can also move this particular or any other test cycles that I have created. So let me show you the move thing now as well, as we have added the version. So I can select the version. So say for example, this is the cycle I want to move to version 1.1.50, and I can choose that and click on move, and you will see the test cycle clone v1.0 regression will be moved to this 1.1.50, right? So you can see that this particular cycle has been moved from unscheduled to a particular version that is available in this particular project. Okay, so this is a brief introduction of creation of the test cycle, how you can move a test cycle to a particular version, or how you will be categorizing your test cases for a particular version, and how actually you will be doing a more structured approach to your test execution within your project. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how you can add the test cases into the test cycles that we have created, or how you can add or execute the test cases into the ad hoc cycles. So let us go to the project. So this is our project, and in order to add the test cases into the test cycle, there are multiple ways, and I'll go through those different possibilities and ways and the features within Jira that are available to add those test cases into test cycles. So let me go to the Zephyr interface, and here in the Zephyr interface I have the option to search test cases. Now before you actually add the test cases, you need to search the test cases either through basic search, advanced, or JQL. Now in this case, if I go to search test, or search all the test cases from the Zephyr interface, it will list out all the test cases, which in turn is basically nothing but a basic search query in Jira, which selects the issue type as test and the project where we are in. Okay, so now these are the test cases. Now how can you add these into the test cycle that you have created? So the option is very simple. In the right hand side of the test case, go to the 3 ellipses here, and if you scroll down, you will see the option of executing the test cases. So if you click on execute test case, it will open the execute window or the execute test window. From here as well, you can add this test case into the ad hoc cycle. So at the moment it's by default to execute ad hoc, but if I want to add it to the existing testing cycle, I can select the second option, add to existing test cycle, and then I can execute it, right? So what this does is, if I select the second option, it will add this test case into the particular test cycle, and then it will open the interface to execute this particular test case as well. So say for example, I want to add this test case to version 1.1.50, and I want to add it to the site to clone v1.0 regression. This is our cycle, and then in the test folder, which folder? So if this particular cycle would be having certain folders, it will give me the list of folders that are available below this particular cycle. So at the moment there is only one folder. I can choose this particular folder, and from here itself I can assign this particular execution to certain team member in my team. So I can go ahead and search the team member. So I can say at the moment, let me assign it to myself. So if you start typing in, it will list out the matched users. I'll say RCV tutorials, and then if I click on execute, it will open the execution interface, and along with that it will also add this particular test case into that test cycle that we have selected, right? So here it has opened up the execution interface. So I'll skip the tour as of now, and here now I can execute this particular test case, right? So here in the execution status and all the details I will be able to update in the test execution. So I'll cover test execution in the next tutorial in a lot more detail, but this is first way to basically add a particular test case into a test cycle and then at the same time execute it. Okay, let's go back and go back to the project, and I'll show you the other way to add the test case into test cycle, and with that it won't execute the particular test case. So if I go to the Zephyr interface again, search the test case, and say for example I want to assign this to a particular test cycle. So right hand side 3 ellipses, click on it, and you will get another option, add to test cycle, from that particular test case itself, right? So I can click on add to test cycle, and it will open add to test cycle window. I can select the version, I can select the cycle summary where I want to add this particular test case, I can select the folder, and I can also assign this particular test case for execution to one of my team member. Okay, if I want to add more, add to more test cycles, so I want to add this particular test case into this particular test cycle, as well as there are more test cycle, then I can check this box and then click on add, and this test case will then get added to that particular cycle, and the window will still be open, so that you can if you want to add it into any other cycle, say for example I want to add it to the ad hoc as well in the same version, then I can add this particular test case in the ad hoc. So I'll uncheck now. I don't want to add this test case to any other cycles. Click on add, and then this window should disappear. There is error. Okay, I think it got added, but there was some error. So we'll see. We'll go back to the cycle and verify that. So this is the second way basically. Now the third option, or the third way to add the test case into cycle, is from the test case description. So test case details. details page. So here you are on the test case detail page. In the right hand side, in the actions, 3 ellipses, click on it and you have the same option, add to test cycles, right? So here either you can execute, and while executing you can add it to a particular cycle and execute, or you can add to a test cycle directly and you can execute it later. Okay, so same options are available here on the description as well, or the test description as well. Now the other option for adding the test cases is basically, so let me go back and open the project. So from the cycle, so whatever cycle we have created, right? So if I go to the cycle summary, and from the cycle summary I can get all the test cycles that have been created in this project, right? Now many times you want to add the test cases in bulk into the test cycle, right? And you don't want to go to each and every test case and add that into the cycle. That's very tedious work, right? So say for example, in this particular, unscheduled clone v1.0 regression, I want to add, test cases based on certain criteria. So in the right hand side, click on the actions, 3 ellipses, and you can add tests from here. Okay, so directly in this cycle, if I click on add test, it will open me the add test window, and there are multiple options to select and add the test cases into this particular cycle. So I can either search the test cases individually using the ID or different criteria, or I can write a search filter. Okay, so I can write a search filter to search a specific test case that we are looking for. Say for example, I'm looking for the test cases that are having a label as a regression. Then I can create a search filter, and then I can select that particular search filter and choose that search filter, and based on that search filter criteria, it will add all the test cases that will match to that particular filter. Okay, then I can also add the test cases from another cycle. Say for example, I have a existing cycle which has 50 test cases. Then I can select that particular test cycle and pull those test cases into the new cycle. Okay, so these are 3 options that are available to add the test cases into bulk into a particular test cycle. So if I go back to individually, I can just start typing in the ticket number. So I can say RT49, RT, say for example, I know what all test cases or the issues or tests basically that I want to add. I can simply add those or select those by different search criteria individually, and then I can add those into this particular test cycle. If I want to assign these test cases to someone, I can simply choose the user from this drop down, and I click on add, and you can see that the test cases have been added. So these test cases have been successfully added, and you will see that the test cases are available here in this particular regression unscheduled test cycle that we have created, right? So this is a quicker way to basically add the test cases based on certain criteria. Now let me open another option. So this was individually. If I go via search filter, then I can create a search filter to filter the test cases that I want to add, and then that filter will be available here. So for example, these are the filters that are available here, but I don't have any test case filter as such, but this is how it will look like. So for example, you choose the filter, and based on the filter, it will filter out the test cases, and it will add those test cases within that particular cycle. The other option, from another cycle, you can select which cycle you are looking for. Say for example, I want to add the test cases from 1.1.50 version, which are in the cycle clone v.1.0, and then a test folder, and then I want to assign to someone, so I'll choose assign to. I can also select the priority to those test cases. So for example, these are the high priority test cases, and then execution status, I can say unexecuted. Only unexecuted test cases need to be added to this particular cycle. Then I can select component label. So there are a lot of options available to add the test cases from another test cycle. cycle. So once you are done with the selection, you can click on add, and the test cases that will match that particular criteria will get added successfully, right? So this is a brief introduction how you can add the test cases into different test cycle and what all different possibilities are there to add the test cases into test cycle. Now let's go back and check the test cases that we have added. So if I go to the ad hoc, you remember RT48 is the test case that we have added manually, right, directly from that particular test case and added it to the ad hoc execution or ad hoc cycle. Similarly, for this clone v1.0, we added the test cases to the UI folder, right, manually, going through test case one by one. So these are the test cases that have been added in the cycle. They are in the status unexecuted, and now whomsoever in your team you will assign these test cases, they will be getting notification to execute these test cases and log the pass or fail test result into the Zephyr itself, right? So this is a brief about adding the test case into test cycle in Jira Zephyr. That's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how you can execute the test cases that we have added previously into the test cycle. So test execution in Zephyr is possible in many different ways. We'll cover all those ways. So if I go to the quick start guide of the Zephyr, you will see that this is what we have been referring to. So simple test process with basic execution planning, with structured execution planning and structured test process, right? So when you are trying to execute a test case, you can follow simple test process. If there is a test case which you want to quickly execute, but that's not necessarily a part of any test cycle, then what you can do is you can execute it in the ad hoc cycle. Okay, so that's possible there. If you want to execute one or two test cases in ad hoc mode, then the more structured approach is basically to have the test cycle, add the test cases into test cycle, and then execute those so that you can keep track of a particular cycle, how many test cases were there, how many got passed, failed, and what is the overall confidence of the quality of that particular release or version. Okay, so that's the whole point of following the structured test process and the test cycles that we have been understanding into the previous tutorial. So in this tutorial, what I'll cover is I'll cover how you can execute in Zephyr, so the test cases into Zephyr. So let's go back, and if I go to the particular test case, we have briefly understood about the test execution anyways in the previous tutorial, so this will be a quick one. So here to execute, say for example, this is the test case that I want to quickly execute randomly. You can directly go to the test case either from the search or from the details, right? So I'll go to the right ellipses in the search window here, and from here I can just directly go to the bottom and you will see the execute option here. So I can simply click on execute and it will open the execute test window, and I can select the execute ad hoc cycle, or I can add this particular test case to any particular test cycle and then execute. Okay, so let me show you how to execute in the ad hoc mode first. So I'll say ad hoc, and then in the ad hoc mode I can just say execute. If I want to assign it to myself, I can do that. Say for example, I can search the users, or I can assign to someone else in my team. So at the moment I'll assign it to myself and click on execute. So once I'll click on execute, it will open the execution window. So now in this window, you will see this is the execution window. We are in the detail view in the right hand side. If you want to see the list view, you can click on the list view and it will give you the list view or the test cases that are in the ad hoc cycle but are not being executed, right? So whatever status is there. Okay. So now in order to execute this particular test case, what you need to do is you need to simply, either directly you can just overall change the pass, fail, or work in progress or block. So these are the execution statuses that are available. If you want to mark this test case as pass, simply select the pass from the drop down, and that will mark the overall steps in this particular test case as pass. Okay. But if you want to go step by step and start executing the steps, right? So what you can do is you can simply scroll down, and here you can perform the step, and based on the steps, say for example this passed, you can mark this as passed, right? right? If you don't want to go through the test case step by step and you want to directly mark the test execution, overall execution as pass and fail, you can select it from here in the execution status. Okay. Now, when you are going step by step, this is the actual approach when you are working in a test team and trying to execute the test cases. You will be going through the test case step by step and then following the tasks or the actual steps on the software or the application that you are testing, and then you will be marking the steps as pass or fail. Now, say for example, the second step got failed. Okay, so I'll fail this, and then here you can put your comments why this particular test case failed. So you can provide the details in the comment section, and then if you want to attach, say for example, you want to attach the screenshot, you can directly from here click on this attached link, right, or the plus sign, and you can attach the attachments or the screenshot. So this window will get open. You can add files directly, copy and paste to this particular window, and the attachment will get attached to that particular step. All right. Then if you want to have raise the defect directly at this particular step, you can select the drop down here and you can click on create defect. Okay, so if you click on create defect, it will open the create issue window in Jira, and from the issue type you can select the issue type as bug and provide the summary, description, etc. to create the bug in Jira. All right, so that will create the defect against this particular step, and the defect will get linked here, and this number will be shown as whatever number of defects that you raise against this particular step, right? So there will be for example, one defect is raised, you will get one defect here. Okay, so this is how you can execute step by step and add the comment for the person or the developer to have a look, have the attachments and raise the defect from the test execution in Zephyr. All right, so that's how you will add the defect from the step level. If you want to generic, put a generic comment, for the overall test execution, you can put the comment here. You can also create defect here, right? You can create a new issue, click on create new issue and add the defect, or you can select the existing defect, search the existing defect and link those defects to this particular test case in this execution, right? So this is how you will execute the test case. In general, if you want to attach the attachments directly to the test case and not to the steps, this is the section where you can click on plus sign and add the attachment. It opens the same window, right? So this is how you will execute a particular test case in ad hoc mode. Okay, so now if I go to the Zephyr instance again, or Zephyr section again, and go to the search test case, so this was the execution through the right hand side in the search result, and I can go to execute and execute the test case. Now from the issue detail or the test case detail page as well, you can execute the test case, right? So from the test detail page here, what I can do is I can go to the right hand side in the ellipses, 3 ellipses, and I can click on execute, and it will open the same execution window. I can execute in the ad hoc mode, or I can add to the existing cycle and execute. Okay, now there are a couple of test cases that we have added into the existing cycle. Now let's go to the to those test cases, and I'll execute the existing test cases that are there into the test cycle. So I'll go to the cycle summary. So now here, say for example, I am in this cycle, so clone v1.o regression, and I want to execute the test cases that are part of this UI, right? So I can go to this particular folder directly. I'll see all the test cases. If I want to directly pass fail these test cases, I can simply select from drop down here, and if I want to execute these test cases step by step, all the steps in this particular test case, there is a E icon here, so I can click on execute and it will open the execution window. So it opened the exactly same execution window that we have opened, or when we executed the test case into ad hoc mode, that's the same window, and you have to follow the same process process to execute this particular test case, mark it as pass and fail. If there are any comments for a step, you add them here, attachments and defect, right? So if you want to have the view as the list view, you will see, go to the list view and you will see the test cases that are there in this particular folder. Here at the top, you'll see the folder or the cycle, the folder and the test cases within that particular execution, right? So this is how you will basically search the test cases and then execute the test case within Jira. Now this is the execution part. Now say for example you are working as part of the test team. So the best way to basically figure out what all test cases or the issues are assigned to you and then execute from there is to, say for example, I'll go to the Zephyr interface again, and here if I search for the test execution, so in the search test executions, I can open or filter out the test cases that are being assigned to me. So once you log into Jira and you want to find the executions that are assigned to you, so here from the assignee, here you can filter out, or say for example here if I sort it out, I can sort based on the assignee. If I want to filter the test cases that are assigned to me, I'll simply go to this drop down here and I'll check what all test cases are being assigned to me for execution and what are the test cycle in which I have to execute those. Then from here as well, I can directly click on this E icon, execute the test case and finish my tasks or the work that has been assigned to me in terms of test execution. All right. So this is these are some of the ways to basically execute the test cases in Jira. You can do ad hoc test execution. You can go to the test cycle, see the test cases that are being associated with the test cycle and execute those, which is more of a structured approach of the overall test cycle or test management within Jira. And then you can search the test execution, filter the test cases that are assigned to you and execute those test cases within Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful and it clears some of the concepts of executing the test cases within Jira. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn about some of the reports or the testing reports that are available in Zephyr for Jira. So reporting is very important part of the overall test management in any test management tool. Now when it comes to the Zephyr add-on for Jira, Zephyr provides very good reports that are available within the Zephyr itself. So within Jira, you don't have to leave Jira at all. And we'll look into the key reports that are available into Zephyr interface. So here I am on the Jira instance in the project. Now if I go to the Zephyr section here, so we have covered cycle, summary, execution, everything. Now in the reporting section below the planning and execution, so you have planned and executed your test cases. Now the next part is basically to report what happened or how is the progress. So you don't have to prepare any manual reports. That's the beauty of having Zephyr for Jira, and all the stakeholders will be able to view these particular reports based on the real-time execution that happens within your project. So if I see the reporting section, you have the test summary report, test metrics and traceability. So let's go and understand these reports one by one. So if I go to the test summary report for this particular project, you will see that in the summary, so it will list out all the test cases that are available there. Okay, so based on the version, based on the components, or based on the labels. So if you see the top section here, so this is the test summary report. What this report shows is it's the overall test cases that are available in this particular project. So there are total 11 test cases, and if you see the test cases by versions are being categorized here. So unscheduled 11, there aren't any test cases that are being tagged to this particular 1.1.50 version. So that is why it is showing as 0. The next section is the section where it shows the total unexecuted test cases. How many of the total test cases are unexecuted, how many of them got executed, right? So out of total 5 got executed, 6 are still 6 are executed and 5 are unexecuted. So this is the high level execution summary. Then by components, it shows the details of the test cases by components, and similarly you will get the details by the label. So whatever label you'll apply to your test cases, the test cases will get filtered out in the test summary report based on the label. So this is very important report, and it gives you the overall high level overview of the test cases within your project. So this is the project and this is the test summary within that particular project. Then if we go back to the test metrics, so this is another report which is more relevant when you start the execution. So when you are planning your test cases or writing your test cases, you see the summary of the test cases based on what all test cases have been documented. In the test metrics, this is more relevant when you start the test execution, right? So if you see the test metrics for this particular project, at the top you have by default all versions will be selected. So if you want to select any specific version, you can select that. Otherwise you can leave it to all versions to view the details of all the versions or the test cases within all versions of your Zephyr or the project, right? Then here you can select the duration, how or what detail or what is the duration of the test metrics that you want to look for. So it's 90 days. I'll leave it at as 90 days. And if auto refresh is switched on, then it will refresh the execution status automatically on this particular page as the execution happens. If it is turned off, then you have to manually refresh the execution every time if you want to look for the latest updated test metrics. So here in the first graph, if you see, so daily test execution progress will be shown here. So how your execution is progressing. So this is, very important in the project. So say for example, you are even if you are following the Scrum, so within Scrum in the sprint, you as a test person, you start writing the test cases or communicating with other team members and coming up with the test scenarios. And then once you get the working software or the build ready by the developer, you start executing the test case. So within the sprint, you will see how the test execution is progressing on a daily basis, how many of them are failed, blocked, passed, work in progress, etc. That you will get into the daily test execution progress report. So in the right hand side, this is the only day, the first day that I have executed these test cases, and this is the graph that will be available, the bar graph on a daily basis. Then below you will have the test executions by test cycle. So these are the test cycles. So ad hoc test cycle, how many test cases are being executed in the ad hoc test cycle, or how many test cases being executed in the v1.0 regression test cycle, right? So based on the test cycle, if you select all versions here, it will give the test executions based on the test cycle. Then test executions by tester. So many times you want to see how the execution is happening based on the members of the team members or the testers within the team. Then this is the section which will show how many test cases have been executed by a particular tester within the team, right? So here at the moment, since all the test cases have been executed by me, so that is why the RCV tutorial is the user who has executed all the test cases, and this is showing just one graph there or one bar there. Ideally, if say for example you have 4-member team or 5-member team executing the test cases, you will get the name of the team member and the test executions by those members in form of bar graph here. Okay, then executions by date is another section here. So based on how many executions happened on particular date will be shown here in this section. So pretty simple graph shown. And then execution list will list out the detail of the test cycle, the ID, what is the execution status in the tabular format, which is very handy and easy to read out, right? So this is the test metric report and the test summary report. So these two reports are very, very important important for you as a, if you are a test manager or a test lead and you want to basically share the details with the wider audience or the stakeholders, then you can, use these test summary and test metrics reports directly. You can pass on the details of the reports, and these reports, if all the data is being updated properly by the team members within the testing team, you will get very recent and dynamic report out of Zephyr itself, and you don't have to manually create all those status reports and send the emails out to the relevant stakeholders, right? So this is the advantage of using the test summary and test metrics report within Zephyr for Jira. That's all for the report section or the reporting section in Zephyr for Jira. In the next tutorial, I'll cover about the traceability matrix, which is another very important report in Jira. So that's all for this particular tutorial. Hope it was helpful. Please do share and subscribe, and thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this Zephyr for Jira tutorial, we are going to learn how to use traceability matrix within Zephyr for Jira. Now, traceability matrix comes below the reporting section of Jira. So we have already understood about the test summary and test metrics reports that are available, and traceability matrix is very widely used matrix in software testing or software development to basically understand what is the overall coverage of the requirements that you get, right? So in software testing, when you are writing any test case, it should relate back to the requirement. Okay. And when we talk about the agile development approaches now, so we get the requirement in form of user stories. Now, for those user stories, we need to write either the BDD test cases or the general usual test cases that we used to write in other approaches, waterfall approaches as well. So those test cases need to basically suffice or need to relate to the user stories or the requirement. And once they are linked to the requirement, there the traceability matrix is formed, which gives you the details of how the coverage for that particular requirement or what is the quality coverage or what are the test cases that are covering the requirement or the acceptance criteria for that particular user story. So let's go ahead and go to the traceability matrix in Zephyr for Jira. So under the reporting section, I'll go to the traceability matrix, and in Zephyr for Jira there are two types of traceability matrix. So once the traceability matrix report gets open, right? So if you want to go through the documentation, click on the question mark sign, and you'll be able to read the documentation, official documentation about the traceability matrix in Zephyr. But if you go to the report type here and click on the drop down, you will see there are two traceabilities, forward traceability and the backward traceability. When we talk about the forward traceability means the traceability from the requirements to the test cases, executions and defect. Okay, so first thing you get in the software development is basically the requirement, right? So you have the requirement, and then requirement is the source of truth to basically start work on the development activities or writing the test case, and then executions, and within those execution, if the test case fail, you log the defect. So forward traceability starts from requirement, then tests, how many tests are linked to the requirement, then executions, how many executions happen, and defect. If we talk about the backward traceability, it traces back from the defect. So for example, you raised a defect, backward traceability will help you to analyze that defect and will help you to figure out against which requirement that defect has been raised. Okay, so these are the two types of traceability reports that you will get in Zephyr for Jira. Okay, so let's select forward traceability, and as we know, forward traceability is basically from the requirement. So in the issue type, if you are looking for forward traceability, do not choose all in the issue type, because in terms of requirement, we get the requirement in the agile development in form of user stories and epic, right? So you can select story and epic if you are looking for traceability of epic and story, and then you will see the traceability. So here you have the requirement and then how many test cases are being associated to that particular user story. So in this case, if you expand this particular user story has 4 test cases, right? And then how these test cases have been executed. So from these tests, which executions have been done. So for which, or basically in which execution test cycle that you have created, these test cases have been executed. So for example, RT33 has been executed as part of clone v1.o regression test cycle. Then this has been not executed. Then 35 and 36 have been executed and part of the execution cycles. Okay, so this 36 has been once executed as part of v1.o regression and once executed as part of ad hoc execution cycle. So all these details you will see in here in the executions section. Then next it will show you the traceability, that for this particular 4 test cases 4 executions were done and how many defects were raised, right? So and then below that you will see for each of the test cases where it was executed and how many defects were raised. So if none defects were raised, you will see none. If the defects are raised and linked, then you will see the defect linked here, right? So you can see very clear picture here that yes, this is my story, and whether the test cases that are linked to this particular story are sufficient to basically test this whole requirement, or whether these test cases are okay to ensure that the quality of this particular user story or the acceptance criteria will be met. If there are any gaps, then there will be easily you can figure out within the team and add more test cases if required. So this is the beauty and the advantage of having traceability matrix. And now because this comes automatically out of the box, then you don't have to prepare these in Excel, and that's very tedious approach of creating the traceability matrix. So this is the forward traceability, and that if you have a defect where in which cycle this defect was found, it was found in ad hoc, and this is linked to this particular test case RT36, and this RT36 test case is part of this particular requirement, right? The user story. Now I have filtered out based on story and epic. If you in your project you consider the requirement, the task as the requirement as well, you can choose the task as well, and then filter out the traceability matrix. Now coming back to the backward traceability. So if I select backward traceability, in that particular case, the backward traceability starts from the defects, then executions, test, and requirement, right? Now in the type, I don't want all the issue type, because in the backward traceability, I'm only interested into the defect, because the backward traceability links from the defect to the requirement. So just select the bug and filter out the results, and you will see all the bugs in the defect section, and then the backward traceability will start. So RT51 is a defect which has been raised, which is not fixed yet. It is still in to do. So the status will be shown here itself, and whether when this defect was found will be shown here, or which execution happened because of which this defect found. So if none execution is shown here, that means this was not found as part of any execution. Okay, but RT50, if we see, this was found as part of clone -v1.o regression UI test execution cycle that failed, and this defect is linked to this particular test case, and then this test case is part of the to requirement. Okay, so this is how the backward traceability looks. If I expand this, you will get a more detailed view here. So you have a defect, how which executions happen, or which test executions happen because of which in which this defect was raised. You will see that here the test cases will be shown here, and these test cases are linked to these two requirements, so RNS10 and RNS13 here, right? So this is what the backward traceability will look like. So from the defect, execution, tests, and requirement, and forward traceability is from the requirement, how many tests are linked to it, whether those test cases have been executed, if executed in which cycle, and then if those test cases passed or failed, if failed, how many defects have been raised and linked, right? So this is very important concept. So traceability matrix in software testing is very important concept, and once it comes to Zephyr for Jira, it is available out of the box, so you don't have to worry at all. Just know how to use traceability matrix within Zephyr for Jira. So that's all for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful and clear. Please do share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.